What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at Hitchcock, directed by Sasha Gervais, starring Anthony Hopkins and Helen Mirren. Hitchcock tells a story about the making of Psycho and the struggles that Alfred Hitchcock went through in order to get this movie off the ground. This movie is based off the book Alfred Hitchcock and the Making of Psycho by Stephen Rebello. Okay, so I've always been a huge fan of Psycho the movie. It was one of the first black and white movies I can remember seeing at the age of 8. And when I first saw it, it instantly became a movie that resonated with me over the remake. When I saw the remake, like there was something about that original movie that just stood out to me. It had a like a raw, it had like a real legit feel of a scary type of movie. And of course, it was Psycho go on to be one of Alfred Hitchcock's most famous works. So when I found out at between the age of so when I found out, but this movie was in production, the year was around 2011, 2012. I was extremely interested in it because what would a movie be like of Alfred Hitchcock trying to make Psycho? Like, how would this movie dramatize those events? And when I initially first saw this movie some 10 years ago when it came out, I liked it a lot. But upon repeated viewings, I can see a lot of the flaws that this movie does have. But I overall do feel that it's a very solid movie, and it does pay a loving tribute to Alfred Hitchcock and to the process that went to get Psycho off the ground. So I'm going to illustrate my pros and I'm going to illustrate my cons. So go with my pros first. Alfred Hitchcock and Helen Mirren. I'm sorry, Anthony Hopkins and Helen Mirren, who both play Alfred Hitchcock and his wife Alma Revelle. These two were spectacular in the roles. Anthony Hopkins completely disappeared into the role of Hitchcock, from the mannerisms to the vocal pattern to the way Hitchcock would just have a prominent stature like this, and how he would interact with people. Like Anthony Hopkins put on a fantastic performance as Alfred Hitchcock, and I can't think of anyone in the role playing Hitchcock. It's just a shame that this movie wasn't a legit Hitchcock biopic, because I think Anthony Hopkins would have aced it in a more dramatic representation of Hitchcock's life in general. Helen Mirren, on the other hand, she was outstanding as Alma herself. She has such a grasp on the role of Alma Revelle, and she and Hopkins just have outstanding on-screen chemistry with one another. Like, you buy them as being a married couple and as a couple who have been through a lot. And that's just Hopkins and Mirren just being very veteran actors. So I have zero complaints on those two. They're the best parts of this movie, to be honest with you. That's not to say the supporting cast that includes Scarlett Johansson, Toni Collette, Danny Houston, Jessica Biel, and James Darcy were not bad in their roles, because I thought they were. I think in some aspects, some of those characters were kind of underutilized, and some characters were utilized to the best of their abilities. For example, Danny Houston plays this character called Whitfield Cook, who is a screenwriter who is trying to adapt his book into a movie, and he goes for Elmo for help. This movie tries to build on a potential love affair between Alma and Whitfield, and I think this is actually the most weakest aspect of the movie, because I didn't really need this extra drama. To me, it comes across as padding. Just Alfred Hitchcock struggling to get Psycho off the ground is more of an interesting movie and story than Alma having a near affair with this Cook character. Nothing against Danny Houston. I thought he put on a very solid performance, and I actually do like the chemistry between him and Marum. I just don't think the subplot was needed for this movie. Not only that, the supposed affair that almost took place between the real life counterparts, that happened 5 years prior to the making of Psycho. So the timeline is kind of jumbled up in this movie just to give it a little added effect. I don't think this movie needed it, to be honest with you. Jessica Biel, she plays Vera Miles, who was in the original Psycho movie. I thought Jessica Biel was very good in the Vera Miles role. I like how they touched on the real life animosity that Hitchcock did have for Vera Miles. Hitchcock wanted to make Vera Miles his new Grace Kelly, but once Vera Miles got pregnant, she pretty much abandoned Hitchcock. And I like how the movie captured the tension that existed between Hitchcock and Vera. And I thought they had a really nice scene that kind of paid it off a little bit near the end of the movie. And I thought Bia was really good in the role. Scarlett Johansson, she plays Janet Leigh, and I thought Scarlett Johansson was beautiful as Janet Leigh. Johansson looks like an actress who, if she was in the 60s, she would have been a mega star. Johansson has the look of a 60s of a '60s leading lady. And as Janet Leigh, she to me she looked kind of spot on. She was spot on as Janet Leigh. I thought she was great, and I like how the movie also dramatized Hitchcock's infatuation with Janet Leigh. I thought it captured that really really well itself. James Darcy played Anthony Perkins, and if you were to put James Darcy and Anthony Perkins side by side, Darcy is a spitting image of Perkins. It's creepy as to how similar they look in facial structure. And for the few scenes that Darcy was in, I thought he did a good job at mimicking Anthony Perkins. I thought he put on a very very respectable job and paid a good tribute to Perkins. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more scenes with Darcy, but that's just me personally. Uh, so now we get on to my biggest gripe with this movie is that this movie has these scenes that involve Ed Gein, who was played by the incredibly underrated Michael Wincott. And this movie kind of tries to play it off as Ed Gein kind of being like Hitchcock's therapist in a way while trying to make the movie Psycho. And it creates a tonally very confused type of movie. Like when the movie is focusing on the scenes with Ed Gein, like in the opening prologue, it's dark because we actually see Ed Gein kill his brother, and then it goes into a whimsical thing with Alfred Hitchcock explaining how Ed Gein inspired the story of Psycho and everything like that. So like it's very tonally inconsistent in a lot of areas. Not only that, some of the scenes with the Ed Gein could be pretty intense, could be pretty creepy. Like there's actually a scene where Ed Gein has his dead mother in bed and he sleeps with it. Uh, Now, by itself, I think those Ed Gein scenes can make for a very, very, very interesting and horrific Ed Gein biopic movie. And I would definitely cast Michael Wincott because I thought he did a fantastic job playing Ed Gein. And I actually was kind of into the chemistry that Wincott and Hitchcock and Anthony Hopkins had in the scenes that they were in. I just think that it was completely out of place. And I don't know what Gervais was trying to go for by having these therapy sessions with Ed Gein and Hitchcock. Like the performances are fine. I just don't understand what he was trying to convey. That's just me personally. From an aesthetic standpoint, this is a beautiful looking movie. This movie has cinematography done by Jeff Cronenworth. Cronenworth is known for his many collaboration with David Fincher. This is a beautifully shot, beautiful looking movie. I love the production design. I like how Sasha captured that 1960s appeal and aesthetic. This movie feels like a time capsule. It feels like a movie. It feels like a time capsule, and I appreciate that to the utmost. The scenes of Hitchcock trying to get Psycho off the ground are really, really interesting. Him having to go through the ratings board, and him having to talk to the head of Paramount, played by Richard Portnoy. I thought these were great dramatic scenes, and these scenes I would have liked to have seen more extensions on, instead of just having time being wasted on on the Alma character having a almost affair. See, the affair subplot didn't really interest me. What Hitchcock had to do to get Psycho off the ground. That should have been this movie's more primary focus, because that to itself is dramatic right there. And I think the movie really missed out on the opportunity to present that. But overall, I enjoy Hitchcock. I like it a lot. I think this is a really good movie. 10 years later, to me, I think it still holds up, and it's kind of really forgotten about. Like this movie wasn't really a hit when it first came out. It kind of was under the radar, and I really think people should give it a watch, especially if you're a fan of Psycho or just a fan of Alfred Hitchcock. It pays a loving tribute to Hitchcock and to the making of Psycho in general. Despite the criticisms I do have for it, I do overall recommend this movie, and I am gonna give it an 8 out of 10 because the positives do outweigh the negatives I do have for it. But it's a beautifully acted movie, a well constructed movie, and just an overall visual marvel to look at with the '60s aesthetic. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for Hitchcock. Let me know your thoughts in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I will check you back next time for more.